This show going in had everything lined up, but match after match, it just didn't come together. Now it wasn't a disaster, but it definitely wasn't what it should have been. You could see what New Japan Pro Wrestling's Resurgence 2025 was trying to build here. A loaded lineup, multiple title matches, and a few pairings that looked like easy wins on paper. And at times, you got flashes of that. Moments where the pacing was locked in, or the energy picking up. But too often, the momentum got clipped before it really had a chance to land. It wasn't one big thing that went wrong. It was a bunch of little misfires that added up across the night. There were parts that worked, but not enough to carry the whole card. And unfortunately, that disconnect showed right up front from the start. They opened the show with Fred Rosser versus Matt Vandagriff, and it didn't take long to realize this wasn't going to set the tone the night needed. Vandagriff pretty much came in with energy, pulling out a suicide dive, some nice strike combos, and even a barricade flip, but the rhythm just wasn't there. Rosser tried to give the match a backbone with hard slaps, apron spots, and some stiff corner offense, but the timing never synced up. It felt like watching maybe just two separate speeds, just trying to share a ring. There were a few bursts that had potential. The crowd reacted with light "let's go Matt" chants before quickly switching to boos, and there was a brief stretch where Vandagriff landed a springboard forearm, a corkscrew drive, and a near miss on a 450 splash. But each time things started to pick up, something just stalled. Vandagriff's movement looked pretty delayed, and it killed any real chance at any momentum. Even Rosser's offense, which was steady and physical, couldn't carry the weight of the slow pacing. The finish came when Rosser was locking in a chicken wing and after a gut check, and while it technically landed, it didn't feel earned. It was a match filled with effort, but not connection. Opening with this wasn't the right call to me. It made the show feel like a starting point on a delay. I gave this one 1 3/4 stars. Now thankfully, the second match found a little more rhythm, at least for a while. World Class Wrecking Crew versus United Empire for the strong tag team titles moved quickly and kept things lively, exactly when the show needed it. After a flat opener, this had just enough chemistry and variation to pull some attention back. TJP and Templario started hot with flashy offense, from a bulldog combo to slick tag team transitions. The crew, though, leaned into power, delivering a spine-buster, brain-buster mix and physical control sequences that balanced out the pace. The contrast between styles made it easy to follow, one side flying and the other dragging them back down. What made it work was that everyone got their stuff in without turning into a big complete mess. You had spinning tombstones, suplex variations, splash combos, and a lot of tight tandem work that didn't overstay its welcome. The crowd sounded in, and there were no slow stretches. Then came the finish, and that's where it lost its footing. The small package from United Empire to me felt flat, especially after a string of big, high-impact setups that didn't get used to close. It's kind of annoying when a tag match flows like that and ends with the least compelling option. You're not expecting a grand finale, but this felt like the rug got pulled out without a reason. Still though, the match up until that point had energy, clear rolls, and clean pacing. Not great, not bad, just good with a clumsy last beat. This gets 2 3/4 stars. But just when things were starting to pick up, they went right back off the rails. The Good Brothers and Young Bucks vs Bullet Club War Dogs threw everything out the wall, sometimes all at once. It started with brawling outside the ring, dives off the stage, and combo spots that never took a breath. The Bucks brought their usual double teams, and Anderson hit his signature C spots, but even early on, it felt like the pace was working against itself. Instead of building to anything, it just dumped the action from the start. The two sweet chants were there, but this felt like a collection of moves, not a match with purpose. The mic spot from Gabe Kidd in the middle of the match absolutely killed any momentum they had going. Up until then, you could at least follow the wildness, but once he started talking, it broke any sense of flow. They tried to restart with super kicks, a spiked tombstone, and the magic killer, but that long interruption had already done the damage. It felt like they were trying to hit rewind, but the tape had already snapped. The match had the names and the stunts, but none of it really landed because the structure never really gave you time to care. There were moments that could have popped more, like Nick's early dives or the Bucks' closing sequence, but they all got buried under the noise. The finish with the magic killer looked clean, but by then, I already checked out. This gets 2.5 stars. Finally, this next one brought the night's first real moment of control. Tomohiro Ishii vs. Drilla Maloney for the strong openweight title was the first match on the show that didn't feel like it was trying to do too much. From the moment they locked up, it stayed in one lane, stiff, compact, and centered on physicality. They traded forearms, suplexes, and power moves with no fluff in between. Ishii brought his usual presence and control, while Drilla matched him more than you might expect. There wasn't a second wasted, and the crowd didn't need any convincing to stay with it. What made this work was how clearly it understood its own pace. Drilla hit some sharp combos, a brainbuster, a spear, and a thrust kick, and Ishii kept answering back with suplexes and brutal lariats. You had spots that could have stretched out too long, like the superplex or the Made in Japan, but they never milked them. It felt like a sprint built out of a heavyweight offense. Each moment had weight, but nothing dragged. The final stretch landed exactly how it should have. A power bomb, a basement lariat, and a brainbuster to close it. That's how you finish a match that knows what it's about. No overkill, no dead time, just a clean build and payoff. Now this didn't steal the show, but it gave the card a reset and reminded how effective simplicity can be. I give this one 3 3/4 stars. And right after that, the energy hit a new gear entirely. Konosuke Takeshita vs. El Phantasmo for the Never title didn't waste time getting wild. The reversals were slick early, and once ELP launched that dive over the barricade, it turned into a sprint of big risk and fast momentum swings. Takeshita landed a hard strikes, a tombstone, and even pulled out a top rope lariat. ELP answered with a poison rana, a pile driver on the apron, and back-to-back springboard dives. It was messy in parts, but always moving forward, and the unpredictability kept it watchable. Rocky Romero pulling the ref out was the kind of thing that usually derails a match like this, but here it just added more fire. Instead of stalling the momentum, it gave ELP something to bounce off of, literally, when he put Rocky Romero through a table. The match didn't break from it though, it just kept climbing. They were pulling from everywhere, mixing desperation with flash, and you didn't know what was coming next, and that's exactly what kept this match alive. The final stretch belonged to Takeshita here, and it landed. A knee strike, a rolling elbow, and a pump kick, and finally the raging fire, all hit in stride without dragging it out. The match didn't peak too early or hung around too long. It just built, blew up, and wrapped at the right time. Despite a few uneven spots, it earned the reaction it got. I gave this one 4 1/4 stars. It felt like at this point the show had rebuilt their momentum. Then came this. Hiroki Goto and Zack Sabre Jr. for the IWGP World title didn't waste any time bleeding into their strengths. They mixed technique and aggression from the very start, shifting between counters, slaps, and brutal uppercuts without forcing any of it. Zack Sabre Jr. focused on the arm, using wrench holds and joint manipulation that had a purpose and felt targeted. Goto gave him just enough room to work with it before blasting back with a suplex, spin kick, and headbutts that cut the rhythm in half. The balance between them, it felt sharp without getting stuck in neutral. Everything they did had a purpose. Zack's transitions were seamless, while Goto brought real weight to every strike. The back and forth uppercuts, the lariats, and submission counters weren't just filler, they were building to something. It felt like a proper title match where both guys understood when to slow down and when to explode. The crowd seemed ready for a final stretch that would go all the way, till it didn't. The double pin finish took all that momentum and just flattened it. After everything they set up, watching it end with no contest, it pretty much just felt like deja vu. Not just because of the match, but because New Japan Strong in particular already pulled this at the last show with the women. It didn't ruin what came before, but it absolutely killed the moment. I give this one 3 3/4 stars. After that ending, the final match had a chance to sneak in something meaningful, if it had enough time. Mercedes Moné versus Zumi versus Mina for the Strong Women's title didn't start off hot, but you could tell something was coming. Early on, it was more about posing, positioning, and scatter offense than a real rhythm. Mercedes did her usual setup spots, while Mina and Izumi moved in and out of the action without much urgency. It wasn't bad, just felt like they haven't fully settled it in yet. There were moments here and there, but it took time to really get going. Now once it did, it started to click. Mina landed a top rope sleeper slam, Izumi pulled off a double stomp and a La Mystica, and Mercedes strung together some meteors with smoother transitionings than earlier. The strikes got tighter, the combos got sharper, and the back and forth turned into something worth watching. You could feel them finally pushing the pace, but then it ended. Izumi rolled up Mina, and that was it. The match just had reached a gear that it never got a chance to explore. It's not that the match was bad, it just felt like it stopped right when it got interesting. All three brought something, and the final stretch showed what they had in the tank. It just never felt like they were allowed to really go for it. If they had 5 more minutes or so, this could have meant a whole lot more, but this gets 3.5 stars. Now looking back at this whole show, it wasn't about one bad match. It was the pattern that kept showing up. This card looked like it had everything lined up, but match after match, it just didn't come together. Some matches had pacing issues, others had weird finishes, and a few just didn't click. Even when things picked up, they got undercut, whether it was a slow start, a flat ending, or no contest. A couple of matches stood out, like Takeshita vs ELP and Ishii vs Drilla, but not enough carried the weight of the rest. This gets a 7.25 out of 10. Not recommended.